Okay. Hopefully we're live now. Sorry about that slight delay to the start of today. A few technical problems kicking off with LinkedIn, but we're going now. So I want to welcome you to today's session, a deep dive on RPA, intelligent automation, and data analytics. It's great to have you here today. Really excited to be spending this time with you this morning, afternoon, evening, depending on where you are in the world. Please do let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from. We'd love to know. Quick backstory before we kick into the sessions that we've got planned for you today. When I started AI Journal a year ago, or just around a year ago, it was no more than 1 or 2 blog posts from myself. It wasn't until December time, so 3 months ago, or 2.5 months ago, that I really started 10x my thinking on the core reason I started this business. To create an open source hub that allows you to share your opinion and have reports, thought-provoking opinion articles, events, all for free, and have training from across the world to inform you and give you new ways of thinking. It's great to see that as of today, we've got a community that's close to 20,000 from what was only 4,000 about 2 months ago. And in the past month or 30 days, we've had a reach of nearly 70,000 people across the world. And the amazing thing is, for me and you, we're only just getting started. So a lot more ahead of us, a lot more to do, and a lot more things to accomplish. So talking back to what we try to put on for everyone and what we want to do to add value to people and to businesses is these kind of events. So today, we've got a great lineup of exceptional speakers that you'll hear about on the topics of robotic process automation, known as RPA, intelligent automation, and data analytics. And we won't just be focusing on the technology, but why people are at the core of all these things that we're doing today and the amazing accomplishments that we're making. The reason we wanted to do these sessions and a report on this topic, which you can download for free on our website, is because these technologies specifically are quickly changing the way we live our lives and also the way the businesses operate and the businesses we love operate. So the adoption of these technologies is becoming so big and impactful that Global Markets Insights, who I follow quite closely, said when I was reading it the other week that it could be worth 23 billion with a B by 2026, which is huge. And this really blows my mind when you think that the combined revenue from RPA software providers is estimated to be around the 2 billion mark in 2021. So for me personally, when I look at these figures and the awesome achievements we're making, and you'll hear from some of these companies today, such as Robocorp with their open source software, is that with the achievements we keep hearing and that have used these technologies or a combination, it really makes me excited to see what the future holds for us as a whole. And as you can see, as for you as an individual, with the incredible improvements these technologies are set to bring us across so many areas, from education and healthcare, retail and finance, through to tourism and sport, all sectors we plan to look at throughout the next couple of years with the AI Journal for our reports and events to bring maximum value to you. And in a minute, we're going to be delving you right into the first session with Kieran, Antti, Ollie, and Wayne. But before we do that, I want to give you a massive thank you for taking the time to join us today. Whether you're watching from your desk or listening in your car, we really value having you here with us today and really excited for the sessions we're going to be putting on. So these sessions have awesome speakers you're going to hear from that wouldn't have been made possible without the support from our great sponsors, Robocorp, Data IQ, and Virtual Operations, companies I really recommend that you go check out. And you'll be hearing from the founder of Robocorp, Antti, in this next session with Kieran, Ollie, and Wayne. So please do use the comment section to meet and engage with speakers, myself, and the sponsors, and everyone else that's going to be joining us today. We want to hear all the questions, so please ask away, and the speakers will want to give you their valuable opinion, I'm sure, and we'll be going through to make sure we get them all answered for you. If you know someone that can't come along or you can't stay through the whole session, that's not a problem because it's all recorded. We will send out the recording and you can watch it at your leisure, whether that's later today, tomorrow, next week, or next year. And personally, I think it will be quite cool because we'll be able to see what we're looking at today and what our opinions are today, and the kind of roadmap we're drawing, what it will look like in a year's time and be able to reflect on that. So a really exciting day for you today. Or morning, evening, wherever you are again, please do let us know. And with that, I'm just going to say a massive thank you again and welcome Kieran to take the driver's seat. Really hope you enjoyed today and hope you have a great time.
Hello, folks. Hello, Wayne.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
I'm dressed for the occasion.
Yeah, I feel underdressed. We did this the last time and you wore a bow tie, and I did promise, but obviously slightly naughty and currently not. So do apologize.
I am wearing tracksuit bottoms, so it's just what you see on the top half that looks smart.
Righty, so we've one or two people we're going to have joining us in a moment here. So let's see if we can get them into the room in a couple of seconds. The thing we're talking about today is the evolution of digital transformation, data and development. So not an unmeaty topic, and hopefully to goodness, one that we can keep people interested in. Today, folks, you will see a couple of speakers, so they'll join Wayne in a moment. We're just swapping them across in StreamYard sessions. So we're going to meet Auntie, who runs an open source software development company, Open Source RPA, making the headlines recently as absolutely one of the, if not one of the biggest things, Wayne, I think you'll agree, to happen in the RPA space in a while, and probably reflective of a very maturing market where we see open source software happening. We'll meet Ollie in a moment as well, who works in AI in healthcare. And Ollie himself works along the lines of trying to get more medical staff more time with their patients as well by using AI and automation. And then, Wayne, I don't know if we should introduce you or not on the basis that I think most people know you. I'm not suggesting you've been around the industry for many, 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 many years, but you have. I think I first, and this is maybe a surprise to you, I first read about you maybe about 5 or 6 years ago in a book by Leslie Wilcox. He was identifying you as a leader in the automation space way, way back, many, many years ago when you started out in a large company and started to work with the technologies themselves. Do I remember it right?
It was a decade ago when I first started, so I don't like to talk about that because I still see myself as a sprightly 23-year-old most of the time, but unfortunately I'm not, as the grey hairs are beginning to show. But yes, very much so. This has been a passion for a long time. It's amazing to see how this industry has grown from those early days. And of course, having seen the evolution of RPA into intelligent automation, into hyper automation, and obviously the continued progress that we've seen in the world of AI, and all of this, crashing together in this world of delivering business value through the use of technology is fantastic. So yeah, great to be here, and obviously I'll try and keep talking while we wait for everybody else to join us. But I know we have a great topic and discussion today, so real pleasure to be here, and obviously always brilliant to speak with yourself. And as much as I've been in this industry a while, you've certainly written a hell of a lot more in even a year than I will have done in the last decade. So, for anyone who knows me, they're very likely to know Kieran, or at least have read one of thousands of pieces that he's written about this particular industry.
I think that maybe shows that I have large quantities of time on my hand more than anything else. But let's see. We'll jump in with you anyway, because I think you and I could talk all day, as we've done in the past. Let's start, if you don't mind. There are what I would say is top 3 vendors, or so-called top 3 vendors. There are top 10 vendors now, and in a market that never existed 10 years ago. And now we're starting to see a lot of open RPA as well. We're starting to see the rise of open source and AI. Can we say the market is matured, advanced? Can we say it's now the right time for open source, or what's your thoughts in general on the market?
And I had a view, and then I saw a post that Phil First posted a couple of days ago where he has highlighted, based on 400 execs, what he believes are the most commonly used RPA platforms. And I would think 2 of the top 3 were not who I would have had. It's certainly in the top 5, never mind the top 10. So, this is an interesting market. It's, is it mature? Yes, I would say it probably is a mature or a maturing market. I think the fact that, open source RPA the number of support capabilities that are moving up alongside the actual technologies themselves is a good indication of whether something is mature. If you can build a business on the coattails of a technology type, then I think that is a good sign of maturity. And there are a number of organizations now that are growing as a result of the continued success of RPA, including one here, Robocorp. So I think that's a good sign of maturity, really. If other organizations, if other businesses can be built on and alongside a technology type, it's generally a good indication that it's maturing. You're on mute, Kieran.
If I can get isn't that a classic 2020 saying that we're on mute here? Andy, myself and Wayne just started anyway. We just jumped in. We're talking about open source RPA. Is open source RPA a credible alternative to the so-called top 3 or top 10? Does it have all of the functionality that those tools have, particularly the robots, particularly artificial intelligence, data analytics? Can we see it as a credible alternative, or is it a nice to have?
Well, hi, Kieran. Hi, Wayne. Great to join here, jumping in straight with a question. So definitely the way we see it is that the capabilities are there technically. So there's really nothing magical about RPA as a technology itself when it comes down to the fundamentals. We've known how to build this level of automation for, let's say, a decade already. So it's really something that we have already in place and is ready to use and ready to be leveraged in large enterprises. As a company at Robocorp, we're obviously building the enterprise layer on top of the open source capabilities that are in there. And when it comes to leveraging AI and intelligent automation, the way we look at it is that you really can't throw a rock in Silicon Valley without hitting like 20 different AI startups. So we want to keep that in mind when we are planning and building an open platform. So integratability is really everything to us. So you want to be able to integrate to the best AI capabilities when those come, and we don't know yet what are going to be the leading AI platforms out there. Certainly we can integrate with things like AWS, Google, and Azure, but as you have all the time new things coming up, you want to be ready to jump in and leverage them in your RPA and really use RPA as the hands of that AI in a sense to get that working across an enterprise. I don't know if I managed to answer everything in the question. I didn't take notes while you were.
No, I think you did, because it's interesting for me because to a degree, open source RPA just suddenly appeared over the last numbers of months. And I know that's not the case because you've been dealing with the open source framework in the background for the last couple of years. And needless to say, someone obviously has a lot of faith in open source technology to put $12 million into your company. So I think, that in itself should be evidence enough. But Wayne, if I could come back to you for a moment, are we looking in the right place with open source RPA or RPA in general? Should we be introducing more machine learning, artificial intelligence? Are the products ready? Does the space need them?
Is that the $1 million question, right? We tend to look at technology a lot of times for answers when often we don't look at ourselves and our process and our people probably in as much detail for those solutions. I have lots of views kind of on the open source space, and obviously we've done quite a lot of preparation for today's session where we spoke about the makeup certainly of Robocorp, and clearly we can do a little bit of a deep dive in there. I think first of all we need to think about what is RPA if we are going to concentrate on RPA. Is it or should it be low code, no code? Should it be the replication of human actions in process? And there's lots of different views on that. I would be very surprised if we didn't hear the word Python, Python, Python a few times during today's conversation, and maybe that's another question that we need to talk about here. There is, in my view, and Antti mentioned it, handwork versus head work. The AI is definitely the head work. Kieran, I know you call it the clickety click, the thinkety think. There's a place for both of these technologies. If we think about the way that current processes are being run in a business, there's lots of clickety click, there's lots of handwork, there's certainly a hell of a lot of head work, and therefore this amalgamation of technologies in this world of intelligent automation versus RPA is a necessity, right? There are not many organizations so far that will only need RPA. I can't think of one. I can't think of one organization that will only ever need RPA. It's a simple technology. It's a very useful technology. It's a very generic technology, but it is not a panacea for business-wide transformation, in my view. And I've been doing this, for a decade. So I feel like I have enough experience to categorically state that RPA is incredibly important, but is not the only thing you will ever need.
And Wayne, one of the things that was announced a little while ago was that COEs not having a center of expertise or a center of excellence impacted the return on investment from RPA products. With open source tool coming in, machine learning, data analytics, and a whole host of other technologies available now in the market, how do you see the role of the COE evolving or changing?
Great question. And different organizations are definitely looking at this in different ways. In my view, complementary technologies that are working together need to have a way of working, a setup, governance framework internally that aligns these technologies, aligns the people that are making use of these technologies under a similar umbrella. Now, whether you want to call that center of excellence, center of expertise, whatever you want to call it, if we are talking about intelligent automation, we're talking about hyper automation, we're talking about creating business value, then there needs to be some general consensus, rules of working, process governance models that are aligned. And I think that is incredibly important. I think it's not a surprise to me that a COE helps increase return on investment. And I think it's for those very reasons of governance and process and doing things the right way in an efficient manner, not replicating, being aligned, all of those things. I mean, they're just common best practice for anything. We can ignore whether we're talking about automation and just talk about, making progress in business. They generally align to those type of principles. And I don't think automation is any different. Yes, it's technology, but it's still following process. And it still has people and process absolutely involved.
Thank you. Antti, if you don't mind me coming back to you just for a moment, based on what Wayne is saying and based on the open source market, how do you see firms evolving the next couple of years in terms of skills and in terms of tooling and in terms of, to Wayne's point, Python? And there'll be a debate in there somewhere about real coders and not coders coming through as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, thanks. So, just listening to the comments about COEs, I think RPA took a sort of a false start in a sense with the focus on citizen developers, low code or no code platforms. I know that there's certainly levels of business automation that you can do with no code tools, and there's a place for that. But when we talk about things like intelligent automation, we really are talking about people building things on notebooks, like real ML things, and just having them being able to continue with the same notebooks and write it with Python in terms of RPA. It just makes a lot of sense. And we've really seen at Robocop, at least, we've really seen wherever we go and talk to companies, the COE-led model is something that comes up more and more, where we see also results happening. So I'm not really surprised by that study that shows that COE-led models are taking, are showing better results overall. And in terms of the technology, really, I think we are at the point where digital workers or these agent-based automation solutions, they should be considered as something that are part of every IT department's stack of tools. So it's a tool in the tool belt that they can deploy and use anywhere. And so it just makes sense to have that be something that's not a vendor specific, low code thing that you can only deploy in that vendor's intended manner, but instead do it with standard environments like Python. I often put AI, ML, analytics, and automation next to each other, and all of those follow, Python, like we heard here. So that's the way that we are looking at it.
And do you think, if we talk about Python, let's be honest here momentarily. Hi, Ollie. We'll bring you in a moment if you don't mind. We just jumped on ahead. If we talk about Python, then that will scare a lot of people. And being honest here, we talk about citizen developers, but not everyone can be a coder. And therefore, is there a little bit of something in the market that says there are tools for coders and there are low code and no code tools that allow folks to drive okay automations or sophisticated automations, but there'll never be a link between the two. They will always remain separate?
Well, I mean, there's levels of coding involved and scripting. So we see these tools that we are building as frameworks that make it easy and simple for people to pick them up and start using and leveraging them in making automation. So you don't have to be like a full stack engineer to build something and make it work. There's frameworks and ways of working. So you need to know something about IT systems. You cannot start with just blank slate. You need to have an understanding where you should and can leverage an API, where you can leverage a database, and where you should go through the user interface and do the click there. So that level of understanding, when you start with something like that, and then bring in frameworks that make it easy and simple to actually get something done really fast, then you get into good results. And we want to keep the barrier of entry really low. So instead of having you to know Python, we actually have people coming into Robocop who don't know how to write Python, but they actually learn in the process, kind of get upskilled that way. So I don't want to draw a tight barrier. You're a full stack, software engineer, or then you cannot, create automation. Is simply not true anymore.
Ollie, if you don't mind, we introduced earlier on as working in the health sector and freeing people up to spend more time with their patients. What are you seeing in the health sector, and particularly with the tools that have been introduced to automate and digitize and transform health operations using data? Are they low code, high code, a mixture of code, or where are the tools sitting and fitting, and how is the health industry benefiting?
Yeah, firstly, thank you for having me on, and thank you for doing the introduction for me there, Kieran. It was probably more succinct than the version I would have given, so thank you very much. So yeah, I think that's a really good question, and I think that in healthcare at the moment, what we're seeing is and yeah, Antti, I think I was going to come back on Antti's point actually, and just say that I think it isn't a one size fits all, and I think that's what you're saying there, Antti. And I think what you're doing at Robocop is really interesting, and perhaps we'll have a chance to talk about that in a short while again. I think in healthcare, Healthcare's always traditionally been a industry that's been sort of, a little bit behind the times. You only have to go into your local GP. I think, are you over in New York, Antti? I'm not sure where everyone's from, but in the UK, and I think it's fairly universal across healthcare. It's a little bit different in the US, but generally speaking, healthcare tends to be, especially when it's state-run, which is we know, without getting into too much, is obviously all for a very good reason. Free healthcare is an amazing thing to be able to provide. However, unfortunately, in a lot of countries, it tends to be a bit behind the times. So, and the same is going on with. Sorry, I was going to say, just to give an example, you walk into like a local GP or a doctor's surgery clinic, and often, I always say it's like going back sort of 15 years in time. The way things are run, there's still a lot of paperwork, despite the NHS here in the UK making certain targets to be paperless, by that date, I think, when it came and went, I think in 2019 or 2020, if I'm not mistaken. So there's still even actual paper in the system, and there's lots of letters being sent around. The communications between patient and the service providers is not great. There is an explosion of digital health apps happening, to the point where there's now a regulatory a private company called Orca that is actually reviewing apps and things in healthcare, and they've sort of doubled their headcount this year up to sort of like, they've added like 50 people to their company here in the UK. So there is this real explosion in the market of digitalization of healthcare, but on the ground, there's still, there's a lot. We're still nowhere near, at the point where we're seeing all of that come through. There's lots of innovation happening, but it's not really trickling down to, it's not fully operationalized yet, I think it's fair to say. In terms of, to answer your question more specifically, sort of building up to that, healthcare is also behind, again, in automation in many ways. We got into healthcare at Alpha Lake because we saw automation, as I call it, just simply process automation, as an area that could drive a lot of meaningful, measurable results in an industry that is plagued with being often inefficient. So yeah, we first came in as sort of RPA, looking at purely RPA. And then over time, we started to look now a lot more at sort of connector-based automation. But the industry is only really waking up now to RPA, pure sort of, and typically low code RPA, to answer your question, Kieran. So, the big three, Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism and UiPath have made the most gains in the UK and I think, globally in healthcare. Blue Prism are ahead in certainly in the UK in terms of how many sort of NHS sites they're into. These are all low code platforms. We at Alpha Lake partner with Automation Anywhere, but we try not to focus too much on the platform, but more sort of the program of change and driving efficiency into how we actually enable that process automation. More recently, we worked with a platform partner called Workato, who are a connector-based automation, which is really where we see most of the efficiency happening. But yeah, it's mainly low code. Workato we would describe as no code. But I think what Antti's doing with RoboCorp is very interesting in healthcare, because I think it depends on the situation. It depends on the requirement, and I think I see this sort of open source approach to RPA as just really a maturing of the market. But in healthcare, we are still, as an industry, still quite fixated on the buzzword of RPA, and it's this kind of it serves as a bit of a magnet and a bit of a thing that we can gravitate around because people understand it, and we all love a 3-letter acronym. I think the joke is I effing hate TLAs, but they do kind of help people to get a sense of what the way we communicate as human beings. We need to pass on some sort of terminology, and I think RPA as an industry is sort of as a result of that, it's something that people can get. It's a frame of reference that people understand. But I think I'm curious as to whether or not we're going to see RPA as a term morph into modern RPA and become the term that we all get behind, or whether or not RPA will die out as a term and we will find obviously a new term at some point. But I often talk in healthcare as GUI based RPA, and that's what most of and most of that is a low code tool to deliver that GUI based RPA.
We're not short of
that
acronyms.
answers your question.
It does.
We're not short of acronyms, yeah.
Well, we're not short of acronyms in the automation industry, I can tell you that much. So I've heard low code, high code, no code, RPA, AI. Wayne, listening to what we're saying so far, are we in danger of forgetting the end customer or the end employee as we get so excited about the technology and the terms and everything linked together?
I'll come off mute. There is always a risk, right? And I think if we were to look at RPA, I think it's incorrectly to talk about RPA as a technology. I think of RPA more as a capability, and that capability is, a technical capability. It's also a people capability. It's a mindset shift. Something I've been very aware of, I think, from the early days, was that making use of this type of technology is more than just using the tech. It's a change. It's a change in the way of working. It's a change that an enterprise, an entire business, needs to undergo, and it's a significant effort from a change management perspective. And things like process and change management and mindset. These are all people capabilities. These are all things that people need to do. Whether it be end customer, whether it be user, whether it be beneficiary of the capability. So I think there's always a risk that, and I would think the industry probably has gone a little bit too techy, because if you think about the embryonic RPA world, it was all about putting technology in the hands of people who know process. Now we're very much focused on, it's a technical capability, it's a technology, there's an industry, it's a software industry. It kind of is and it isn't, right? Of course it is a software industry, but actually the foundations of RPA are so much more than just making use of a tech or a software. It is, for me, those who've been really successful have changed the mindset and the way of working within the organization where RPA has been successful. And it's not just the technology, it's everything that surrounds it. So there's always a worry, especially when we start getting into acronyms. And we've heard a lot today. The fundamental foundations for me have got to be that it's a capability. It's there to help create business value. You can define business value in many, many ways. But of course, we need to bring the people on the journey. And those people are the people that this affects, the people that are involved. And that's, from the management team all the way down to the people actually doing the do. So yeah, it absolutely has to be a journey that everybody has to be on. And culture eats strategy for business. And if you haven't got the right culture, doesn't matter how great this technology is, you will not be successful. Very, very rarely would you be successful. So definitely a journey. People absolutely at the center of it, even though you're making use of tech.
Yeah. Ollie, if I could come back to you then, do you see AI as the future of healthcare, or do you see people as the future of healthcare? You're on mute, sir. We all do it, by the way, all the same. We'll do mute bingo. Auntie, you're next.
Yeah, we haven't quite got the AI automation to recognise the fact my mouth is moving to move me off mute yet, but that will be coming, I'm sure. If anyone wants to take that idea forward. So yeah, I think in healthcare, I see if you're talking sort of time frames, I think where we're seeing most AI and actual machine-led, training happening in healthcare at the moment. Healthcare is really exciting. We got into it before the pandemic. We launched in the beginning of 2019, but it's a very obviously, because of the pandemic, it's even more fast-tracked in some of the innovations we've seen coming through in terms of digital technologies out of necessity, just like any other industry. So some of the things that a lot of us have been crying out for a long time in healthcare, just as users of healthcare, as technologists who use healthcare, and people that work in the industry, that's now sort of been really catalyzed. And we're seeing most of the AI come through as areas in sort of radiology, so image recognition, and some of the on the intelligent automation side, some of the you know the sort of AI-based OCR from the likes of IQBot and things like that from Automation Anywhere, where you can train that, you know, that bot the platform to be able to read. As I always say, you know where the quantity column, you know a quantity column is wherever it is on the screen, because it's been trained from enough variability. A lot of the time, though, a lot of that is that needs to be worth it. It needs to be worth doing that. 80% of the gains can come from without even looking at some of those more advanced capabilities. 80% of your invoices and purchase orders, or whatever that might be, are probably not that variable. It's probably quicker sometimes and more effective and more efficient to go in and sort of just throw the 40 different supplier POs or invoices at it and just sort of tackle that. So I think a bit of common sense is needed when we get into sort of talking about AI. Same for chatbots. I was talking to a lady yesterday. We're seeing diagnostic chatbots. Companies like Babylon Health have come under a bit of flack for their chatbot not detecting that a 60-year-old smoker presenting with lung symptoms or breathing symptoms wasn't detected as possible, signposted to possible lung cancer and things like that. So there's always, and that's actually the problem. It's the ability to train it on enough variable, realistic data with enough volume, and that's one of the issues in healthcare. How do we get enough real, or as close to, whether it's synthesized or certainly realistic data that's variable enough to train things like chatbots? So, but on the chatbot point, what I was going to say was actually a lot of the time, just a common sort of tree logical chat flow using sort of some sensible sort of tree diagram logic is actually a lot of the time more effective. So the way I see sort of where AI is going is, if we can tackle, you shouldn't be distracted by AI. I think there's a lot of technology out there, the buzz of it, we want to do everything using AI, and I know this is sort of we have Alpha Lake AI, so we do focus on AI, but we use it sparingly, I think is the word, in the right dosage. And I think there's too much of a rush and too much of a hurry sometimes to try and use AI technologies, but actually you didn't need AI. You just needed some common sense and a little bit of an experienced pair of hands driving it. And I think that's the same for a lot of process automation. Sometimes process automation can be the same. Where I see it going, just to summarize, in terms of over the next 10 years, take sort of machine-led image recognition. Will that be something that guides the radiologist, for example, and shows them with a few circles, these are the points you need to be looking at? Or will the radiologist refer to an AI tool that can validate and double check? So it'll be interesting to see, whether AI, but it's very much going to be an assisted AI, in healthcare over the next sort of 5 to 10 years. And then I think, and that's why I talk a lot about semi-autonomous. I think we're going to be semi-autonomous for a while. And then I think, maybe 10 years from now, and it takes 10, 15 years for anything to come through. So, I think 10, 15 years from now, hopefully things will start to be able to be actually autonomous and we can just all relax, right?
I think that it's an honest admission of the AI industry, if that makes sense, Ollie.
Yeah, it's buzzy.
Everybody gets excited. It's here and it's now, and they forget all the hard work it gets there. Monty, if you don't mind, I'll come to you. Are there shining examples? We've talked a lot of words, we've talked a lot of theory, we've talked about what's coming, but are there shining examples of companies that are using data, AI, RPA that really are setting the standard for everyone else?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. I like the focus on the actual outcomes and not the technology itself as much, even though I'm a technology that's a kind of fundamental nature. But, really the way we are seeing it at our company is that, those users typically do the best who understand their own processes. So So it really comes down to what Wayne was saying, that RPA is a capability as such, and the people who know the processes really matter at the end of the day. So RPA works the same way as AI. It's garbage in and garbage out. If you don't understand your process, it's really hard to engage with RPA and try to surprise, like with magic, make it better. So that kind of process excellence and understanding how things work inside your company, and understanding the right way, like right places where you want to apply RPA, want to apply AI, that really makes a whole world of difference at the end of the day. When you're jumping into a project where we want to start automating things, we've seen so many failed projects that started out with great enthusiasm, but we go into development, or some of our partners go into development, and the customer all of a sudden realizes that, oh yeah, the data that we specified to you, that was just 5% of the actual reality. In the real world, 95% of our cases are actually different from the data that we provided you as an input. So treating it as a magic box that would solve your fundamental problem with your actual processes, whether that's incoming data, something else. Probably other practitioners see this too, but that's the reality. You only can do, like we talk about automating mission critical routines with RPA, but you need to understand what those routines are and how they're defined and how they should work at the end of the day. Again, on mute.
You're muted now, Kieran.
Bingo.
We definitely need that tool.
I haven't been there yet.
Well, Auntie, we need you just to pretend. We need the AI to switch this off as soon as someone starts talking, or maybe the AI is clever enough to keep me from talking. But Wayne, I was conscious we haven't seen that bow tie in a little while. And I wanted to ask you a question. What types of businesses are automating? The press seems to think it's everyone. Are there leaders? Are there laggards? What's the reality of the world from your perspective?
Now that is a difficult question. Is everybody doing it? I think most people are. I think if you were to look at latest stats that I've seen, 92% of organizations above a certain size have at least done something. I would think that's fairly accurate, probably a little bit on the high side, I would say. The difference is doing something versus doing something meaningful. And to Anti's point, creating business value, right? Sustainable business value. I work with some very well-known financial service institutions who have done amazing work. I worked for a couple of telcos who've made some fantastic progress. But then I work with a lot of organizations who are just starting out, and there are certainly leaders and there are certainly laggards. From an industry perspective, I would think the world of manufacturing kind of comes to mind. E-commerce to a degree, I'm seeing not necessarily the big guys, but certainly some of the smaller organizations that have significantly grown over the last kind of 12, 24 months, certainly the last 12 months as a result of COVID. Maybe didn't see automation as much of a priority as what they do now, because they've had to grow. And where they may have thought about factory automation historically, now they realize that they actually need to remove the reliance on people to service their customers in the back end. So there is there's lots of industries that are making progress. I think financial services is and has been seen as a leader. But even financial services is many different types of organization, and there's certainly leaders, banking as one example, and laggards, of which there will be a kind of a few different industry types. But yeah, I feel like now most people who want to they're either on the journey, they've kicked off the discussions, or they have started. But those that have achieved true value, I feel, are still reasonably small, growing, but still small in comparison to those that have started.
Interesting. There was a statement a couple of months ago. It was one of these funny conversations on LinkedIn that said, what has caused transformation? Is it the CFO, the CHRO? Is it the IT team, or is it COVID? And I'm kind of thinking it was COVID that's driving a lot of people toward, or at least the sound like they're heading towards automation anyway. It'd be good to see. I'm an absolute fan of automation, augmenting people and freeing people up to work with customers and helping staff as well be happy. But let me take it in turns for each of you just for the last moment, if you don't mind. A quick 1 minute each. Where do you each see the future of the open source /AI/RPA market moving in the next 3 to 5 years? And if I could begin with Ollie, and then I'll come to Auntie.
Okay, I see the market shifting far more towards the low no-code side of the market, and so it's good to draw that distinction, because obviously what Robocop is also very interesting. Very interested to see where it goes in offering that alternative approach. But in the low-code, no-code side of the market, I see it shifting heavily to the connected automation approach, which more robust automation and process flow, so which enables the processes to work with less dependency on obviously graphical user interfaces and human interaction with the normal process. Obviously the human will still trigger and be involved at various steps, but that semi-autonomous approach's outcome is far more quickly realized if you go via the connector-based approach to automation. I think so. We'll see the big guys, you're already seeing it. We're going to shift more and more towards APIs and low coding and no coding the API, and not low coding and no coding the GUI based RPA. So I think that's the general shift we're going to see. But just on one final very quick point, and it will be quick, was I think increasingly on what you're saying, Kieran, what we're seeing in healthcare, and I think across industries, is people in the line of business that are we talk about democratizing, but that is actually happening. People are now asking, whether it's in HR, whether it's in finance, how do we automate that? And I think that's the shift. That's when the industry's sort of done. Half the battle is won, because we're seeing that in line of business. Obviously software as a service has helped push that as well, with more tools being readily available. But yeah, just on that other point, I think how do we automate this is a question that is now on the lips of people in across organizations, and I think that's only going to be a good thing in terms of enabling humans to do more creative things that our brains are better suited, is what it's all about, right?
Thank you. Auntie, over to you, if you don't mind. Quick 60 seconds. Where do you see the market moving in the next 3 to 5 years, sir?
Yeah, well, the same way as Ollie, I see that connector-based automation is going to be a part of it. But the way we see it is the type of thing that gets you 80% there. And you want to combine something like general purpose RPA, like we are building, to augment and complement connector-based. So we're going to see both approaches mixing up and being able to provide rapid solutions that can actually take you 100% there in terms of capabilities. And also see that there's going to be a lot of consolidation on the market for sure. It's already happening. But what we're going to also hopefully see is that we are not in, let's say, 3 years' time, we're not anymore so reliant and focused on these mammoth platforms. I want to incorporate everything under one umbrella of RPA, AI, or what have they at the time. So it's more of a, you take the software robot or the digital worker as a skill, a capability, like something from like Robocop, then you combine it to connector-based automation platform, and then you combine it with an automation solution, a point solution there to build this unified automation solution, instead of working inside a huge monolithic platform where you need to rely only on the capabilities that platform can provide. Muted
again, Kieran. I totally agree with you, Ante. Just to use the opportunity while Kieran's muted.
I actually
I snuck
unmuted.
in there, Kieran, while you're muted.
Yeah, I thought I'll unmute and then I'll be ready. And then for some reason I muted again. It must be to stop myself talking. Wayne, where do you see the open source slash RPA slash IA market moving in the next numbers of years, sir?
Do you know what? I think I'm going to say something very different to the guys. I'm almost worried that the more complex we make it, the more it shifts back into the realm of IT. Right? You know, we started. If you think about it, you know, whether you want to call it shadow IT or something else, but you know, taking a technology and a capability, taking it away from traditional IT, putting it in operations, because you know there's no code, low code. You know, we're able to use technology properly for the first time, you know, without having to be in IT. My worry is, the more, even if it's low code, no code, pipe, whatever it is, my worry is the more complex we make it, and we are making it more complex. Let's be honest. The more technologies we add in, the more integrations there are, the more things that can go wrong, the more we have to monitor, the more we have to govern. We're making it more IT centric, more IT based than operational based. And I think over the next 3 to 5 years, we may see this move back into traditional means of IT, and maybe that means that there are new technologies that come into operations to take its place. This might be one of the first times that the cycle has moved from operations back into IT versus IT into operations. So that's what we might see over the next 3 to 5 years. I think it'll be an interesting journey, but I think we're adding more complexity. Even though we're making some of these tools pretty simple, I feel like we are creating more of a IT type problem than we are fixing operational issues. And I think that is going to be interesting to see over the next few years what actually happens, and actually how much control traditional IT want to take back from operations, as we continue to really push the boundaries on what no code, low code, open source technologies are enabling us to do.
Interesting. And this time I've got my off mute ready to go as well. Let me try and summarize a little bit, because boy, that was a tour de force for the last 45 minutes. So I think what I'm hearing is, like, open source is a thing. It will definitely impact the top 3. It'll be a part of people's toolkit. And within the toolkit that folks have in organizations, there'll be AI, RPA, and a host of other technologies. The challenge will be, at the moment, the business is driving a lot of this. There isn't a lot of what you were describing, Wayne, as current IT ownership, but we could see that coming back to the fore. Maybe the business will want to hand it back. Having held the reins, they'll realize maybe we don't want the technology. The interesting bit is the low-code space. And that movement I've seen develop over the last couple of years, where there isn't enough, let's be honest, IT people in the world, or software engineers. Maybe the odd business person might disagree, but there isn't enough in the world. And people themselves are coming with far greater skills these days. So I'm almost seeing this push and pull between the low code space to allow people to have the productivity and the tools that they need to do the work that they need. And that's RPA and AI and everything else in between. And you're seeing the business potentially handing back the reins to IT, because maybe the Python world is going to remain dominant. As someone once said to me, can you have a citizen hygienist and a citizen dentist, treating me? I know which I'd want in the right circumstances. Both actually work. But whether I'd want a citizen dentist who's just learned how to do it in the last couple of days treating me, I'm not necessarily too sure to go. Interesting space. I have to say, I'm fascinated by RPA and IA. I can't wait to see what's going to happen now in the next 3 to 5 years. I think things will move even quicker. I wish each every success, Wayne, from the consulting and everything else point of view. Please keep delivering the great work you're doing. Auntie, thank you so much from the open source RPA space. I really see this as a sign of mature market when I start to see open source coming in. I'm glad you and I got to talk not that long ago and dispelling some of the myths, and would recommend some people look at those as well and introduce themselves to your product. Ollie, AI and healthcare, I have to say, if anybody deserves technology and tooling it's the healthcare and the health service. We've seen over the last year the absolute angels and dedicated people that exist and work long hours. The more we can augment them at the right time with the right technology, the better. And I wish you and your business every success in the future. And I wish all of you the best. Thank you everyone today for joining the panel. We have Tom coming in at the moment and we'll hand over. Good luck, folks, and thank you.
Awesome. What an excellent first panel to kick us off today. Obviously, we had a few hiccups starting up, but really glad everyone's managed to join us today. And we've got over 1,000 of you joining us over the course of the morning, afternoon so far, or maybe it is the morning, depending on where you are. And we've got plenty more to come as well. So the next panel, we're going to be speaking with 4 lovely ladies who are going to be delving into intelligent automation from start right through to finish. But before we kick off to that, I just want to revert to where we were and thank Antti, Ollie, Wayne and Kieran for an excellent session looking at the open source models, looking at the healthcare, looking at automation and looking what the bigger picture is for 5 years from now. I think it's really important. And going back to why I built the AI Journal, I always get joked that I look a bit too far ahead and think where we're going to go. And it's conversations like that which really make me think, what is the landscape going to be? What do we have ahead of us? And it's really fascinating because we'll be able to look back on these conversations and see what we do next. And before finishing with my end summary and end speech, I'm really excited to bring the next panel to you, who is going to be moderated by Emma, who's got a lot of experience in this area. And she'll be jumping from person to person to get different insights. And it's going to be a really interesting way of looking at how culture is part of the bigger picture when businesses embark on their digital transformation project, specifically using intelligent automation. So I'm going to bring Emma in now and leave her to introduce the panel. We've got some amazing speakers. Unfortunately, Ken wasn't able to join us, and we'll be pushing straight into this panel now with Anna, Janine, Emma, and Vandana. Really excited to pass over. Emma, over to you.
Thank you so much, Tom. And just as you said, I've got a wonderful group of folks to be talking about intelligent automation with everybody today. Tom gave me a bit of an introduction, so I'm not going to spend too much time diving into that, but I'm Emma, and I will be playing your MC for this session to get the insights from this group of experts, just as Tom said, from the beginning to the end of intelligent automation. And we're going to be taking a little bit more of that cultural or people-focused lens as we're talking through things today. But I want to get started with some introductions from the group. So Janine, I'm going to look to you to get us started, to give a quick introduction to everybody, and then we will dive into Anna and Vandana.
Okay, perfect. And thank you, Emma. So my name is Janine Gill. I am a client director for an intelligent automation and orchestration technology company called Cortex. So I've been playing in this space for about 10 years, and that's given me a great experience of different types of organizations and different projects of where we've implemented successful automation. And I'm really looking forward to being part of the panel today and hoping to share some knowledge.
Wonderful. Thank you. So Anna, I'm going to come to you for the next introduction.
Hi, I'm Anna Lagerhed. I head up the Intelligent Automation Center of Excellence at SSAB. We're a global steel company with home markets in the Nordics and the Americas. So my background is I've been working with RPA for about 4 years, but I also have about 20 plus years experience in management, product management, and process improvement.
Wonderful. And last but certainly not least, Vandana, if you could give everybody your introduction.
Yeah, sure. Hey guys, my name is Vandana Khanna. I'm the Director of Transformation at Unilever. I'm leading the efforts in the areas of RPA, chatbots, AI, ML, change management. So basically from start to finish. That's why this topic is very near and dear to me. So super excited to be here. I have worked for Unilever for 1.5 years now. Prior to that, I have been in multiple organizations leading in finance and technology. So super excited again, and thank you for having me.
Wonderful. So to get us started, as I mentioned, we are looking at a little bit more of the cultural and people side that comes along with digital transformation and intelligent automation. So, Anna, I'm going to look to you for this first question to talk a little bit about what your thoughts surrounding the idea of the people side of transformation and how we should be taking that into account with any sort of initiative.
Thanks, Emma. I hope not to disappoint anyone, but I'm really, as you understand, I'm not here to talk about technology. I'm here to talk about the people. I'm from the business side mostly. And as with any type of endeavor, change you want to implement, without the right people, you're not going to be able to succeed. You need the right people, the right knowledge, and the right support. And when we're talking about robotics, AI, intelligent automation, lots of acronyms today, it's about change. It's about implementing change. And change is all about the people. And the initial reaction usually when people are faced with any type of change is fear. You're afraid. You've all seen the headlines. Will robots take my job? Will I be able to keep relevant on the job market? That's probably what you will face first when diving into these fields. And that's something that you need to address early on. Because I think all of you know who are already working with this, automation doesn't take away jobs, but it does change them. And it's super important to be able to communicate to people with all levels on how they can change with it. Back to you, Emma. And you're muted, Emma.
I made a commitment to myself that I wasn't going to do what Kieran was doing during the whole last panel, and I've already messed it up.
We're all going to do it.
I'm going to not do that again. I'm making it a declaration here in front of the 1,000 or so of you that are joining us. I think what you just said is about automation not taking away jobs, but changing them is such a critical idea when we talk about the fear that's associated with it. And, personally, there's some pieces of my job that I'd like to hand off to technology. And when it gets to the point where I can do that, I will be more than happy to do that and rebalance my position. But what you said too about from the business side, caring about the people, I think is a really critical part of any change management initiative. And, I think I said it earlier this week on a LinkedIn post, like, I will scream it from the rooftops or the mountaintops or wherever you want me to talk about it. But change management is going to be incredibly critical for you with any of your digital transformation initiatives, and you're not going to be successful without that. Janine, I'm going to come to you with a second point here. And I think this plays really nicely with this idea of change management and how do you manage people in transformation. And that's taking a look at the importance of a discovery and the discovery process within digital transformation. So can you share your thoughts on kind of the role of that to get us started?
Yeah, of course. And Anna makes a great point. It's not just about the technology. And it leads into what I'm going to talk about the discovery piece. We're looking at people, process, and technology. And I believe in that order. Alluding to what Anna said, we've got to take people on the journey, and it's a journey of change. And in cooperation with that is cultural change, and how do we manage that to get successful delivery of automation projects. And one area I'm really passionate about, and it's kind of where I've played in the transformation space, is upfront discovery. So making sure that you are looking at who is it that needs to be involved in these projects, and bringing all of those people on board with you. And that's the people of the three areas I mentioned. And then we look at the process. So what is it? Identify that area. What is it that you're looking to change or automate in this case? And then, is it the right process? Can we measure it? Who is it that I need to be involved with to get around the table to deliver this and make this a success? And then we can look at the technology. And Emma and I have talked before about having kit bags. It's what's in that kit bag that's going to help me with that process and with this group of people to drive that change. And it's not a one size fits all either. There are many different applications that will do the job. but it's making sure you've got the right one for your process and your people to drive that change.
Wonderful. And I know, Vandana, when we were talking about this and prepping for this session, specifically that idea of kickbacks or making sure that you're choosing the right tool to solve your problem was something that you have developed some tools and some thought processes around with your personal experience. Can you share a bit about what that process looks like from your point of view?
Sure, Emma. So before I go into anything further, I would say that technology is here to enhance a human being, a human life. So as we are talking about people, so whether it's enhancing you as a person or your work or your well-being, there is an enhancement component. So I think people should not forget that when they're trying to utilize technology. So coming back to the question you raised, I think a couple of things Anna and Janine already touched towards that. But I would say when I start a process, I always look to a checklist, not just for myself. I've started sharing it as well because it helps me keep myself grounded. Because if you're starting a process, understand who your stakeholders are and your sponsors are. Find them out before you even start thinking about the process. Convince them that there is value in the business case before you actually pen it down. Understand the pain points. Identify the quick wins because these wins will help you propel further. And this is very much tied to the discovery phase which Janine alluded to. Find the right tools. Why are you doing it and which tools will help you in that problem statement? And start with some internal tools. I'm a big believer of doing things internally by upskilling and then working and parallelly along with people outside who have external expertise which might not develop in house. But always try to look for enhancement of your people by using these technologies, by upskilling. And involve the community as you move forward, whether you build prototypes, showcase success. So, this is a very important point in the checklist of mine that understand the culture, understand your audience. Don't just imbibe or embrace this journey that we have to run forward without even knowing what your people are interested in. And that is where your change management also comes in, that know your people, know the culture, know the mindset, then drive towards the tool and then deliver value in an MVP format. And don't rush to solve every problem. A pilot is fine. If that works, then probably you can move faster after that. And get overall approval before you move forward after the MVP. So there are a couple of things you have to pay attention to before you just dive in head first and say, okay, now I am a technologist and I'm ready. Understand all these aspects because they're very, very important as you scale transformation.
Wonderful. So I'm going to ask a follow-up question to what you just shared. And you had some information in there, kind of a little nugget of gold hidden in there when you started talking about bringing the organization along with you on that journey. And I think that this is a really important topic to dive a little bit more into in really looking at what have you found to be effective strategies for helping to bring the whole organization along towards this digital transformation effort.
Yeah, thanks, Emma. So transformation doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. It's a journey. It's a process. Don't get frustrated that it won't happen. There are ups and downs throughout the whole process. That's why the name transformation. But in order to take everyone along with you, literacy, digital literacy, education, learning, they're very, very important when you start this journey. Make sure you're educating people along the way. Don't just impose the idea of transformation or a digital technology transformation moving forward, but take them along with you in this journey. There should be a constant movement of upskilling and cross skilling. And in some organizations, there can be a dedicated group of individuals who are coaching and imparting this knowledge, rolling out guidance, and then recommendations as people move forward. So you're not losing that touch. It is not a one time done deal. It should be constant evolution of education. So understand transformation. And I would also say pause, understand what digital actually is. Many people have different definitions of digital when they embark their journey. Make sure digital is no longer a buzzword. I hope it is not because we are seeing it right in front of us. We are connected with everyone with just click of a button. So people should understand actually what digital is. So that definition should be clear. Recognize the culture, and this is something I will mention again and again because it's part of that culture and mindset. And also find out, is your audience ready to educate and get educated and learn? Maybe they want to go a little bit slower than what you are anticipating. But don't lose focus if there is not an early adoption in the beginning. But try, keep on moving because there will be. And then what comes through this is showcase what technology can do. Because several times we have different, I would say, fad words coming around that, okay, technology can solve this problem. But maybe there is no answer to that yet. And what I have noticed during several years of my, during my experience, that people should understand which technology and tool can help you at that very moment and the benefit along with that. So I would take one example, visualization. A very simple thing, but people can spin it in very different ways. You should understand which tools are you going to use, and are your people will be going to learn that, or will you be able to find someone who can build that for you? If we are talking about RPA or cognitive or NLP, understand the value prop behind each technology. So education is very important, and I cannot emphasize enough because sometimes your tools become RPA all over. And what I mean by that, some people forget that there is a component of chatbot and NLP, but start calling everything RPA without even knowing what RPA stands for. So again, you have to retrace and go 4 steps backward before you can jump 3 steps forward. Tell them what actually you're trying to do. If it is a repetitive task, yes, RPA can come in handy. If you have intelligent automation and you need a chatbot type like tool, then think about NLP. And then a machine learning comes in when you're thinking about forecasting. So make sure these tools are there in your toolbox as you start them with the journey, but don't, I would say, flood them with all the tools. And also understand if your organization is ready for that. Is there enough budget to move forward towards it? You have to bring champions along with you. Don't rush to implement a tool till you know these people are going to start working and understanding it. So I will again say that start small, show value, and then move forward with that. And these people will come and embrace it slowly but surely, and will be you on the bandwagon.
Wonderful. And before we move on to the next question, I want to bring up one comment because it made me giggle and I go along with it. It was from Tim. His picture isn't showing up, but those are the words of somebody who knows how to get, and I won't make it vulgar, done in a big company. And I wanted to just point that out because it's true. These are words from somebody who is doing this day in and day out within a large organization. So it's more than just talking the talk, it's walking the walk as well. So Anna, I'm going to come back to you with another question now. And we've talked a lot about the importance of bringing the business along with you and dispelling some of that fear. But now I want to start to talk a little bit more specifically about, in practice, how have you seen intelligent automation come in and start changing the customer and user experience or employee experience within an organization? And what does this, some of these stories that we can start to tell people to dispel that myth?
Thanks, Emma. I'm going to start with the employee experience. And one really obvious thing at SSAB is that we actually have new career paths within the company. New roles that wouldn't have existed without RPA and intelligent automation. And that means that talented people are more likely to stay within the company, keep learning, keep motivated. And the value of that is probably higher than any, RPA time save. On that topic, time save, yes, very important. And then in the early days of RPA, that was where all the focus was. I think now things have matured and shifted. So if you look at from an employee perspective, what does it mean that I save, a number of hours every month from my daily tasks compared to that I don't have to feel stressed during period end closing because a bot is doing the work I was supposed to be doing at a certain time of the month. What's it worth that an HR person can spend 2 days, a couple of days a month in actually developing people instead of copying and pasting salary data? And I think those are really keys in terms of employee experience. And I think Janine is going to talk a bit more about customer experience, but I wanted to mention also both customer and vendor experience in terms of intelligent automation being able to provide alternatives to maybe complex and time-consuming EDI projects, integration projects that absolutely serve their purpose, but it's not a good fit for everyone. So thanks.
I got a little too excited there for a second. Sorry about that.
Maybe I'm talking too much. Sorry.
No, you didn't. You just set me up to pass it off to Janine to talk a little bit more specifically about that customer experience and your thoughts on the question.
Thanks. And Anna makes some great points, and we've spoken a lot about this, Anna and I, in the past. So yeah, it's not gonna be right for everyone, but I think from my perspective and sort of sitting this side of the fence, I've been involved in a lot of change, automation transformation projects and programs where we've been really looking to improve the customer success. Ultimately, that's been the main game. And I know Vandana's got a lot on measuring success, and if people wanted to chat to her about that, I'm sure she'd be open to it. But I think ultimately it's about looking at what you want to achieve and what's right for your business. And that's going back to what I was alluding to earlier around the discovery piece. So understanding that up front, and then I'm going to steal bits here from Vandana's piece as well, taking those people on the journey. We as humans, we don't like things to be done to us. We like things that we can do with people. And that's the main difference. And I think alluding into what Anna was saying, get the right team, get the right people behind you, and really drive those successful projects. And one of those for us has been improving end-to-end customer experience, and driving that through businesses.
Perfect. So you guys are setting me up to make my question asking job very easy, because Anna set up Janine setting up Vandana. So we're going into that next question. Vandana.
Like we've done this before, Emma.
We're going to start looking at how do we practically measure these successes. So this is kind of, we started talking about the people and the discovery process, a little bit of that in between. And now we're starting to round out our discussion looking at kind of from the finish of digital transformation, so to speak, and getting through an implementation and looking at how you measure those successes of the initiatives. So can you share a bit about how you do that, Vandana?
Yeah, sure. So I get always the tricky question, because this is actually a very tough one. When you tell people in the beginning of your transformation journey that, I'm going to measure success after you have delivered something, there will be some scare or murmur along the way that, oh my God, I have to rush to deliver. And as a human being, you will think about, okay, what will happen if I fail? So that's why I say it is very tricky. But if you take it in a manner in which that show them how to do it, give them the value, and then say, yeah, let's see how we achieved it. I'm sure we achieved some value behind it. But I always start with improvement and collaboration. Look at some intangible ways of working or savings. Don't rush to hourly saving. I never try to do that. I always look at, did it improve how you were working before and now? Have you compared that? Have you looked at how your life has improved, well-being has improved? And again, I will come back to the culture and mindset. Do you think your users or employees or whoever is working along with you learned something along the way? Or was this process done just for the sake of it? Did it break down silos? Did it actually improve something along the way? An improvement could be maybe you saved some time during your month end process. I think Anna was talking about that. Or there were some efficiency gains along the process. Understand all these things before you can establish the core KPIs. And your core KPIs, I think we have already heard, are your savings. Did you actually get some savings? Start with 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Don't rush to show 100 hours in your month one. Definitely not. I would never suggest that, because that puts your employees under extreme pressure. You can think about return on investment, because if you keep that component of a human being, if the human being was working and here your technology is helping you, whether it's a bot, RPA, or a chatbot, think about, did you get your value out of it? And if yes, since you have included now technology in the mix as your digital worker, did you get any payback along with that, which is very much in line with your return on investment? But what does your payback period look like? Did you get value in a year, 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years? Well, I hope not. But the longer it takes, the costlier the project is. So think about those terms. And then as a leader, you have to think about, is it truly making sense to do it? And then I think both Janine and Anna mentioned that improvement in your customer user experience. So CSAT score, so which is, it could be subjective. People can say, okay, no, I did not like it. Oh, it did not help me. So that can be subjective, but at least hear the voice of the customer. What are these people saying? Are they truly feeling happier than before? Because you're focusing on people, so it's very important that you keep that in mind again and again. Are they saying during these pandemic times it is helping me and now I am able to relax for an hour better? Then it's a job well done. I would say, instead of rushing towards showing those concrete savings, if a employee comes and tells me, thank you for doing that because now I am able to close the books 3 hours before I used to do, and I'm able to sleep better. Sleep is important. Spending time with yourself, with your family is also very important. So, and lastly, I would say, is it truly helping you in growing your business? If all these KPIs which you put together is helping you do something better, what your business asks for, then I think you have a holistic view of measuring success. And if you said yes for all, then I think you have nailed it.
That idea, the last two that you mentioned specifically, one of improving the livelihood of your employees and improving that employee experience day in and day out, is something that I from a hard ROI perspective is seen as a little soft, but especially as we look at trying to retain and have strong talent within organizations, that's going to be something people are looking for. They're going to look for organizations that have the right type of balance, are bringing in technology and keeping their lives, comfortable and balanced as we move forward. And there's a lot of conversation about what the future of work looks like, and a 4-day work week or shorter hours, or the friends in Europe are probably laughing at this American girl talking about that stuff, but that is a huge goal of digital transformation. So I'm really glad to hear that that's a part of how you guys are measuring success today. I'm going to round out the session by asking all three of you the same question, going back to, again, the fact that we are, tried and true folks that are living and breathing this every day. We're all acutely aware of the fact that, unfortunately, failures are going to happen. There's no avoiding that. But from a pitfall perspective, I'm going to start with you, Janine, to get your viewpoints. But what are suggestions that you have of possible ways to avoid some of those failures potentially, and maybe learn from the lessons of the rest of the crew?
Yeah, thanks, Emma. And you make a really good point up front there. It's learning the lessons. We're human after all. We're going to make mistakes, but it's about taking the failure, if you want to call it that, and then improving next time. So what can we do differently? I really like, and I could talk to Vandana all day about measuring success, because I think along with the discovery piece, an early discovery up front, measurement and then shouting about success. So this works really well for us. Is key and can help you to avoid some of the pitfalls. Yes, pitfalls are inevitable. Not every transformation project and program is 100% successful. If it was, we probably wouldn't be sitting here, right? It's about how do we learn from those and then move forward. And I think there is, an element of what we've been discussing today with discovery up front. It doesn't matter where you start, if you start small, but measure those successes, and then publicize them. Make sure that you're shouting about them and getting more people involved on that journey, to then deliver a bigger successful project or program, and drive further transformation through your business. So I think to sort of summarize, do your discovery and your hard work up front. Look at what you can measure, and it might be all sorts of different KPIs or people measurements within your business, and bring those people on the journey. I think if you look at those in line with people, processes, and technology, that framework that we mentioned at the start, it should help you avoid some of those pitfalls. And if you do get involved in pitfalls along the way, learn from them, dust yourself off, and start again.
Great. So, Vandana, I'm going to come to you for your thoughts on kind of what lessons to be learned from others' experiences to hopefully avoid some of those pitfalls.
Yeah, I would say take these champions along with you, because as you are making sure they're educated and learning the process, keep these champions by your side and nurture them, help them as you're growing this talent. And Emma, you mentioned that. So take them along with you. And these will be the ones who are the ambassadors and who will take it forward. But don't forget to constantly teach them, because the technology world is evolving every single minute. So make sure they are also being kept up to date with that. It should not be just their job to run towards and finding what is happening. You all have to embrace it at the same time. And constantly, I would say, communicate and build that momentum and celebrate small wins. Be agile and celebrate successes with your people, with your leadership, with everyone, and say, hey, this is what we did. I think Janine mentioned, shout it out, shout it out. The louder you shout, the more people will hear it. And that is important. And I would say deliver prototypes. Think about building it small and small till the time you realize, oh, now the whole maturity is out there, so that we can move on completely, which obviously takes a long time. But there might be some organizations who have already reached that maturity. But if you are still in your early stages, go small. It is okay. Secure funding, because everything costs money. Secure funding, make sure everyone is understanding the value. And one thing I would absolutely say, which is very important, is just take feedback. Nurture and improve constantly. Make sure you understand this feedback, because these people who are your champions are also giving you feedback, or they're gathering feedback, or there are people outside. So be open to that feedback. No, nothing is going to be perfect. We all are human beings at the end of the day, and there will be several times where we ourselves will make mistakes, and that's okay. So it's okay for anyone to make mistake. The mistake should not be that critical that you cannot lift everyone up, but make sure you are open to that golden feedback. Take that with you. Take that with you. Show improvements. Show actions, because people like it. Your employees will thank you constantly when they say, oh, my voice is heard. And voice is very important, and we can constantly talk about it. Every voice matters at the table. And again, be iterative.
Wonderful. And last, but certainly not least, and I'm going to come to you for your thoughts on the idea as well.
Thanks. And Vandana and Jenny, thank you for such excellent points. I could talk about this for a long time, but I'll keep it short, as I know we don't have much time left. But first of all, I would say this is not about technology. It's about what technology can do for you and for your business. Having said that, not having IT on board is a definite pitfall, because IT obviously are crucial in this. So make sure you collaborate with everyone, with IT, with the business, with the people who provide the funding, with team members, and so on and so forth. So that's one thing. The other thing, as always, when working with something that changes people and their work life or whatever it is keep stating the why. Why are we doing this? If people do not understand the reasons behind the change, or why something's new is happening, why we're implementing RPA, why we're implementing a new platform, why we're changing our organization, whatever it is, people need to understand the why, and you cannot repeat that enough, why we are doing it. And I think, Vandana, you made some excellent points on the whys that actually matter to people. And last, I would like to say, if you're just starting out with RPA, intelligent automation, and you're talking about doing proof of concepts, pilots, and you're trying to sell it to the decision makers, try to make them understand that doing the first proof of concepts, pilots, whatever you want to call them, proof of values, the value is learning. the value is not in the monetary business case or the ROI. The value is learning. After you have done your first few attempts at this, you will learn, and then you can start to really scale and build on that. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate the three of you joining us today for the second session. And I do want to specifically call out to some of the lively debates that are also going on in the chat right now. There isn't a way for me to pull all of these up onto the screen to share with everybody, but if you haven't been paying attention to that, go back. There's articles being shared and statistics and thoughts and lists, and it's so wonderful to see the community all learning from each other in addition to the information that we're sharing here today. With that, we've got about 30 seconds to wrap. So I want to just take some time on behalf of the whole group with AI Journal and Tom and Kieran earlier. I'm going to speak for him and also throw in my jab that I only forgot to unmute once. And all of you guys did a wonderful job. So I think the ladies of this event win the non-muting competition. But I want to thank everybody for joining us today and hanging in there with our technical difficulties as we were working through getting the event started today. But thank you everybody for your time, and we look forward to continuing the conversation in the comments on the video chat on LinkedIn. But with that, have a wonderful day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anna.
Same to you.
Thanks, Bye.